Hello, I'm Scott Davis, and welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and yet very hopeful time. And this is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of October 26, 2013, which is also One Muluc, or offering in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. We're also going to be talking about the Scorpio new moon, lunar eclipse, as well as Venus moving into Capricorn, Jupiter turning retrograde, and the fourth, Pluto-Uranus square. So we got a lot to talk about here. Anyway, October 26, 2013 is One Muluc, or offering. It carries the themes of water, rain collected in water pots, vessels of gratitude for life, clouds heavy with rain, sacred jade stones that are used in rituals and burials, offerings made in ceremony, baptisms, and purification, deep undercurrents of emotions, restoring equilibrium, appreciation for creation, releasing negative patterns, energy, and emotions, and accepting change. And the day glyph for offering depicts a fish who represents the Mayan water deity. And I love this connection between the fish of offering and all this water energy we have with the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn, and Scorpio, Jupiter, and Cancer, and Neptune, and Chiron, and Pisces during this report period. Not to mention that we're currently in the Chinese year of the water snake. And the energy of this 13-day period is really about gratitude for life and cleansing the past for transformation in the present. And we're going to see all these themes play out in what's happening in the astrological field as well. So keep these themes of Muluc in mind as we're talking about things like the Uranus Pluto square. Anyway, I got some real great feedback during the one key care and feeding. And so I've reworked the neutrino forecast into its own video series that will also be available on YouTube and Facebook under New World Birth. So from now on, the care and feeding is going to focus on the Mayan Tzolkin and astrology each month, and the human design neutrino forecast is going to be a separate offering. So look for that beginning November 1st. Anyway, and November is the 11th month, and with the digits of 2013, when we add them together, we get 8. So then it's an 8th month in numerology. And when we think about basic numerology, the numbers really get reduced between a number between 1 and 9. So basically this is a time where we're kind of picking up the pace as we're preparing to complete the cycle next month. So it's actually interesting because the 9 will also be December. So our normal idea of finishing up a year in December will actually be in line with the numerology this time. But anyway, November, this can bring revisions to financial situations, businesses, investments, and industry. The 8 also represents the justice archetype, justice adjustment archetype in the tarot cards, which is about finding balance in our path to know ourselves. This also brings energy that what's begun must be completed. So before I get into the daily energy for One Muluc, or offering, when we look at where all the planets are on October 26th, basically they're all appearing to move forward from our vantage point on Earth, except for Mercury and Chiron, Uranus, and Neptune are all looking like they're moving retrograde or in reverse motion. And actually this might be a good point just to point this out. See, Mercury right now it's on the inside track between the Earth and the Sun, and basically the planets are moving direct when they're moving in a counterclockwise pattern on this diagram. So from our perspective, as Mercury is going in its orbit, once it gets on the inside of the Sun, it's moving clockwise from our perspective because we'll see it moving this way. So that's why it looks retrograde from our vantage point. And then for outer planets like this, it's more that you think of if you had a tangent line to the orbit of the Earth, that whenever the tangent line came around and came in contact with a planet, an outer planet, at that point they would be turning retrograde. And when the tail end of the tangent line comes around, that's when they would then appear to be moving direct. So anyway, Mercury, though, this is the big story right now. We got Mercury, it's retrograde until November 10th. So the end of October, beginning of November, would be a good time to avoid signing contracts, other legal papers, making any major purchases, or even taking a new job. So if you can postpone these types of activities, and the terms are going to be much clearer after Mercury is moving direct. Mercury retrogrades really force us to slow down and pay more attention to our lives in making us focus on the details of our daily experience. And when we're looking at a retrograde cycle of any of the personal or inner planets, it provides information about a correction to our present course. And basically, Mercury has traveled through the first stage of its retrograde cycle, which occurred. It started on October 1st, and then the first stage went until Mercury turned retrograde on the 21st of October. And basically, the first stage is when it passes the point where it will eventually begin moving forward again. So basically, the point where Mercury will move forward again on November 10th, we cross that point with Mercury moving on October 1st. And that first stage represents a shadow time between passing 2 degrees Scorpio and the point where it actually slows down, stops, and beginning moving in reverse at 18 degrees Scorpio, and that happened on October 21st. And this first stage was about receiving information about needing to adjust our direction. Then the second stage, that's the actual Mercury retrograde time. And that's when we want to watch for events that occur in our lives related to the information we received during the first stage. And then the third stage begins when the planet begins moving forward again until it crosses the line where it originally turned retrograde. And during the third stage, that's when we can start to move forward with this revision to our previous course. So we entered the first stage for Mercury retrograde on October 1st. So from then until October 21st, we were receiving information about an adjustment that needed to be made in our lives. Then on October 21st, Mercury turns retrograde, 18 degrees Scorpio, until November 10th at 2 degrees Scorpio, where it starts to move forward. During that time period, that's when we're noticing events that sort of shift our thinking in line with the information we received in the first stage. And then from November 10th to November 27th, this is going to be the third stage where we implement the change in direction that we got from the awareness gain from experiencing the three stages. This Mercury retrograde is really intertwined with the Uranus Pluto square, because the day retrograde Mercury conjuncts with the Sun is November 1st, the day of the fourth Uranus Pluto square. So this is really, the energetic of the downtrodden, authentic individual rebel squaring off against the decaying power structure. The material world continues to destabilize. It's very important, to support your local providers. Know your farmers. Know where the things you need for your life come from, and also to have a real strong spiritual foundation, because those are going to be the important things as systems continue to break down. It's a time when we can really feel like our backs are against the wall. We have no choice but to change or endure something that we once thought was unthinkable, because Uranus brings up things that are really unexpected, and this goes beyond with just dealing with the consequences of bad choices or poor planning. Uranus is like random events where folks are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it happens to them. And I've been discussing in depth the implications of the other planets moving retrograde in past reports. So I'm just going to keynote this one. Retrograde Chiron has us reviewing our wounds so that they can be released by having the courage to open our hearts to any fear or pain associated with our past. Retrograde Uranus in Aries is really seeking to shake our very foundation, to shock us to awaken, and it forces us to embrace a new way of living through reversals and unexpected events. And then Neptune in Pisces is this is about seeking transcendence through spiritual practices that keep us grounded as we expand our intuition and our consciousness. And right now in the middle of this Uranus Pluto square energy, this is really important to have both these things, that your material needs are being met as best you can locally, and that you're engaged in spiritual something that connects you to something bigger than yourself. So, and then the big change that's going to happen in One Muluc is Jupiter over here is going to be, it's slowing down, it's coming to a stop at the opening of the 13-day period, prior to appearing to move in reverse or retrograde motion from our perspective here on Earth on November 7th, which is the very last day of the one offering Trecena, 13 Amish. And so basically Jupiter on 13 Amish turns retrograde or reverse. It's at 20 degrees Cancer. So when at the beginning of One Muluc, Jupiter is stopped, which means it's at the peak of its power. Think of Jupiter, it's the king of the gods. It's the planet that's about good fortune, opportunities, faith, religion, beliefs, and expansion. Cancer is about the family, the home, nurturing, and protection. So we're going to see these themes expanded at the end of October and into November. Jupiter entering into its retrograde shadow, just like when we talked about Mercury having a shadow, Jupiter started its shadow period on August 13, 2013, which was when they developed opportunities from that time until now that are will be up to be reviewed as Jupiter turns retrograde on November 7th. Mostly what I find with Jupiter retrograde is with any retrograde process, it's about reviewing the past. And with Jupiter, what gets reviewed is missed opportunities, and when Jupiter turns direct on March 6th of 2014 at 10 degrees Cancer, excuse me, we'll become aware of a course change regarding how we'll expand our opportunities to protect and nurture our families and homes. Jupiter will take a few months to build momentum a few days to really build momentum in moving reverse. So even into the next Trecena, One Wind, we're going to be seeing that Jupiter is still in the peak of its power. It's still really influencing it. So pretty much count on it being really strong throughout November. For me, Jupiter at 20 degrees, that's in my second house. It's about possessions and earning power and money. So this retrograde time, I may find myself reviewing my finances or deciding what activities are worth expanding and what situations are just draining my resource with little material benefit, because Jupiter's kind of on that material plane when it's in the second house. So that would be what I might be doing, sorting through during the retrograde. Anyway, time will tell. And we've talked about the Uranus Pluto square in the past reports as being 7 occurrences that happened between 2012 and 2015, whose themes are the individual, which is represented by Aries, revolutionary upsetting, which is represented by Uranus, the decaying and dying, which is represented up here by Pluto, power structures being represented by Capricorn. So we're approaching the midpoint where critical mass shifts from the old paradigm to the new. And I've mentioned my favorite example of this starting to really take hold was that reporter that asked the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry if there was any way Syria could avoid military intervention. And Kerry reported, and this is a quote, he could turn over every single bit of his chemical weapons to the international communities in the next week, turn it over, all of it, without delay, and allow a full and total accounting for that. He isn't about to do it. It can't be done, obviously. You know, if anyone deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, it's the person that asked that question, because it changed the course of history. And the power of the individual to upset the power structure from just following the status quo. That's what we're talking about with this Uranus Pluto square. And here in the U.S., we've got the old boy network spouting that the United States is being seen as weak because we didn't attack Syria. But to me, a peaceful solution always requires much more strength than an aggressive solution. So I see the United States was actually showing that you know, we can be strong. Also here in the United States, we've had a government shutdown by Tea Party politicians who tried to overturn the democratic process by extortion. They were unhappy with the laws and that were being constitutionally enacted, so they held the federal government hostage until the 11th hour, when the United States would have defaulted on its debts. You know, fortunately, sanity prevailed, and the Tea Party conservatives are now being seen for being whining infants that they are, rather than adults working within a system that they swore an oath to uphold. You know, these people are willing to destroy the USA if they can't get their way. And with this Uranus Pluto midpoint square, we're seeing the end of corrupt power wielding by the Tea Party, which is really just a fake grassroots movement of the Republicans, whose agenda really is to increase the wealth, increase their wealth by destroying the environment, the rights of minorities and women, and the health and well-being of the citizens who elected them. So anyway, thank you, Pluto and Capricorn, for tearing down this corrupt and decaying power structure. Uranus and Pluto square on the November 1st is very, very powerful. And, you know, I bring this chart out. Just if you've ever done a chart in AstroGeek, you'll know that the thicker the line is for the alignment, the more tight it is. And as you can see, these are very thick lines. These are all, there's so many planets at 9 degrees on October 31st and November 1st that this is just an amazing chart. So we're going to keep talking about it. So anyway, like I said, at least 10 planetary alignments at the time of the square. There's so many planets within 9 degrees and change. It's like a shooting gallery. When I first thought this, I looked at that and said, "Man, that looks like a lightsaber battle in Star Wars or something." Anyway, so we've got Mars here is trying to Pluto there. All right, and then we've got and it's opposing Chiron. So we have Mars here, and Chiron is over here. There's not a thick line to Chiron because they don't really put in that angle, but I use Chiron, but it's at 9 degrees, and then it's in conjunct to Uranus, and that's this green line going down at Uranus here. That's a 150-degree angle. And it's particularly powerful because when you get two strong inconjunct lines like this, and there's a sextile between the two, what you're looking at, this is called a yod. We're going to talk about that, but the moon is also squaring Pluto. It's opposing Uranus, leading up to the square, which is followed by Mercury and the Sun. So over here we've got Mercury and the Sun. They're merged together. They're at the same 9 degrees. And they are sextile, or making a 60-degree angle to Mars, and also in conjunct. Okay, so this is the sextile, the 60-degree angle. This and this are 150-degree angles pointing at Uranus. This is what we call a finger of fate, and the finger is pointing at Uranus. Mercury and the Sun are sextile Pluto, as is Chiron. This really tells a story, and this is the story of a war between two titans. You know, Pluto and Uranus are very, very powerful in astrology. You know, and here's the story: is Pluto is direct, which means it's moving forward in its orbit, and it's really well supported by Mars, the Sun, Mercury, and Chiron. And then we have the challenger, which is Uranus over here. Okay, because these two are square. That's the square right there, which is Uranus. And it's retrograde, meaning it's kind of detrimental because it's moving in reverse in its orbit from our perspective here on the Earth. And it has nothing but detrimental connections with other planets. So the way I see this is we've got this scrappy Uranus rebel over here being backed into the corner by Pluto and his entourage, because everyone's got Pluto's back. But Uranus is unpredictable as an injured, cornered, wild animal. So the results could be unexpected and most likely violent. And since Neptune, which is this line here, where we got Neptune? Neptune's over here, and you see these thin lines. That means this angle is not strong, and because of that, it's not really a major player in the chart. So I don't really believe that what's going to happen is going to have deception involved. I actually expect this will be some kind of overt incident or incidences that present us with an experience. It's just like a chemical reaction kind of experience where things have changed forever and into some kind of new material. I think November 1st will be a time when we look back as the moment that the quantum shift occurred. When we experience something that cannot be undone, you know, it's like a ship that's sailing over the edge of the world, going past the point of no return. So let's look at the daily energy for the Trecena. October 26th is One Muluc, or offering, in the Tzolkin. This is about unity experience through appreciating creation. And we have the last quarter moon in Leo, challenged by the Sun in Scorpio. This brings a challenge to our daily routines. And then the 27th is Tuak, or dog, which is duality experienced through enjoying friends and family. And on that day, the moon in Leo finds some support from Uranus, is challenged by Saturn and Mercury. So the day moves from having the impulse to engage in activities that make us feel more alive and having a desire for some emotional excitement, do something outside of our daily routine. And then later, it kind of settles into just kind of feeling lonely and isolated when Saturn's involved. And then finally, it wraps up with folks being kind of critical in their communications, particularly with the people they have intimate relationships with. Our moons are kind of more influencing our ability to think rationally under that influence. October 28th is 3 Shuin, or monkey. It's about taking action through creating something new, with Pluto making a sextile or 60-degree angle to Chiron, which is about empowering us by exposing our hidden or forgotten wounds to the light, so that healing will be possible. Also, we have the Leo moon is supported by Venus, which has us enjoying pleasant feelings and social interactions. The 29th is for Ebb, or road. This is about stability through serving your community, and we have retrograde Mercury merging with the Sun. This is happening for the second time. Merging with Saturn, I'm sorry. So Mercury has been lining up from our perspective here on Earth with Saturn, and because it's retrograde, see, first it came by and they were at the same angle, and then it came back underneath here during its retrograde, and then it will eventually line up again when it comes around the other side. Mercury does its orbits pretty quickly. So they're at the same degree. This is the second time because it's Mercury retrograde, which makes folks cautious again. On the positive side, we're all more precise in our thinking and detail-oriented in our communication if we're conscious of this. If you previously outlined a general plan, it allows you to kind of fill in some of the details. Critical thinking can be very sharp, but we can also see flaws in any argument, including our own. This transit can be an obstacle to seeing the big picture. We can see a distinction from different types of trees, but we don't see the forest. At worst, this creates difficulty in communication on top of the Mercury retrograde, because we may be afraid that we're going to reveal something, but what happens is we say nothing due to our negative thinking. This often, which often accompanies this transit, that somebody might get injured because they didn't get that information. So overall, this really just requires some real discipline and commitment to our ethics and values in Scorpio. And then the 29th, we've got the Virgo moon is opposed by Neptune in harmony with the sun and merges with Mars and is supported by Pluto, which moves us from being sensitive emotionally but confused regarding the accuracy of what we're feeling. And then later, this shifts to feelings of inner and outer equanimity, and then experiencing irritable moods and critical communications. And then finally, Pluto kind of brings in more intensity to our emotions. It stimulates sensitivity, which can favor sexual relationships. So everything's got an upside and a downside. You just got to know what you can do with it. Anyway, October 30th is 5 Ben or Reed or Corn in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. This is about empowerment through maintaining the home. And we have the moon in Virgo in harmony with Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, challenged by Venus. The day moves from lots of chatting with friends, neighbors, co-workers, to having realistic expectations through being calm and reflective. And then later, feeling in the flow and having a sense of wholeness. And then finally, having a very pleasant energy to be with friends and loved ones. And then on October 31st, we have 6 Ish. This is our Jaguar. It is about being in the flow through enjoying nature. And we have Mars trine Pluto. So actually, we can see this right here on the chart, because on this chart here, you can see we have Pluto down the base of the chart here, and we have Mars up here. And on this chart, we have Pluto, and we have Mars. And so from our perspective here on Earth, this forms a 120-degree angle. And wrapping up October, and this is also an energetic of that square, the Uranus Pluto square that we're talking about. And what this is about, this is a supportive connection between the traditional and modern rulers of Scorpio. And it's an alignment also between planet octaves. Pluto represents our desire and personal will. Mars represents our desires and personal will, whereas Pluto is transcendent of will. It's the will of the universe. It's the empowerment of our authentic self by bringing things to the surface, by exposing what's dead so we can slough it off. Transformation. And a trine between Mars and Pluto is good for making changes in our lives and to become more effective in challenging in the changing world around us. This can stimulate people's ambitions without others really feeling threatened. With Pluto involved, the Martian ego actually gets sublimated. So our efforts should be for the greater good. We will sow the seeds of our own self, or we'll sow the seeds of our own self undoing. So put your energy with the Mars-Pluto trine into doing service. And then we have, Mars is in Virgo, all energy for service, and through that transformation. Mars is also opposite Chiron on this day, and we talked about that when we looked at this chart. So again, Mars opposite Chiron in Pisces, and Mars opposite Chiron. This brings kind of real aggressive wounding and or healing through action. The Libra moon makes no angles, which does not favor any kind of decisions or purchases. Just resting and trying to just integrate all this energy and experiences that we're having. And then November 1st, the 7 men or eagle reflection through seeing from a higher perspective. And this is when the Uranus Pluto alignment. So we have Pluto here, we have Uranus here, here we have Pluto here, we have Uranus here. Again, this square, what it is from our perspective here on Earth, is that it's a 90-degree angle, and this is the 4th square of 7. So this is the tipping point. The scale, and what it's doing is, we've had 3 squares that were really about, breaking down the old order. And the tipping point is when we start to move into the new paradigm. So we've got the 3 passive about breaking down the old paradigm. So this is the themes of revolution, transformation, tension between the material and spiritual world, upheaval along with death and rebirth are particularly potent at this time. And this really brings an acceleration to the transformation related to revolution, evolution. This energy is increasing exponentially, particularly because we're actually on the 28th of November. We're going to be looking at the heliocentric Uranus-Pluto square when they're actually square from the perspective of the sun. So we'll be talking about that later on. But this energy is just this is where stuff, the wheels come off and things really change. The peak of this energy, it basically is for unexpected change as old ways, old structures are crumbling to prepare for transformation. This is one of the undercurrents that's most powerful and continuing during the challenging square of Uranus and Pluto. Again, these are 9 degrees of Capricorn for Pluto and Aries for Uranus. These angles bring disruption, revolution, unexpected change. Uranus and Aries, through individuals, Aries, challenging Pluto, the planet of death and destruction, but also rebirth in the sign of Capricorn, representing structures, including governments and corporations. This is the most powerful transit of our time. I don't care how old you are. This is what, unless you were alive in the during the 1930s, and some of you were, I'm sure, but this is significant for every one of us. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Again, this transit happens 7 times. Usually these types of transits occur 3 or 5 times. 7 times is unusual. It's very intense. I've said it before, the world is going to be a very different place at the end of 2015. Also on the 1st, we have Mercury sextile Mars. So here we go. We've got Mercury here, and it's sextiling Mars there. Again, that's a 60-degree angle between these two. Mercury here, Mars there, 60-degree angle. It's really busy energy with folks having more energy than usual for their own projects. This is a day where working for someone else's benefit does not inspire diligence and more likely to inspire resentment. So it's a good day to work on what's of interest to you. It may seem like good energy to, anything that's of interest to you will seem like a good use of this energy. Since others are feeling the same way, planning on working independently from others, because everybody's about their project and you just need to focus on your project, or if you get sucked into the other person's project, you might feel like, I had this great energy and I didn't use it on my stuff. There's energy for convincing others of your point of view, but there's also energy to convince you of their perspective. So this might be a really good day to avoid people and conversations that could lead to arguments, because it really has a very competitive edge to it. So it can be very confident in our ideas and beliefs and initiate something that should be successful in the long run if we don't need others to bring it to fruition. But think about this. This is also the square. So, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't aware of this energetic and are going to be in very angry communications between Mars and Mercury. And then the Sun sextile Pluto. Okay, the Sun making it 60-degree angle down here to Pluto. Again, Sun 60-degree angle to Pluto. This empowers us to make changes in our immediate environment and reform aspects of our lives that have brought us unhappiness over time. Embracing the opportunities on the first that can be used for improvement of the general good. The Scorpio Sun in harmony with Pluto and Capricorn, it brings a few days to seize opportunities to use this strange creative energy for the benefit of the greater good and spiritual empowerment. And then we also have the Sun here is merging. It's at the same degree as Mercury, retrograde. This is an unbelievable day, November 1st. Anyway, let's talk about this. Prior to turning retrograde, Mercury appeared to be way out in front of the Sun, and then it retrogrades back to conjoin the Sun, and then falls behind the Sun. So the way I like to think about this is, prior to mechanized warfare, generals would send their cavalry out ahead of the infantry to scout out the enemy's location, find possible resources, as well as the lay of the terrain, to move troops with maximum efficiency, safety, and to their strategic advantage. So I like to think of Mercury as being stretched out in front of the Sun, as it's out there gathering intelligence to report back to our consciousness, which that happens when the Mercury conjoins the Sun. So I'm going to use these two markers. I've done this before, and to sort of illustrate this point. Mercury is going to be represented by the black marker, and it's out in front of the Sun. So we're going to start way over here. They're at the same degree. Mercury moving forward gets out in front of the Sun as they're moving across. And what we're seeing is that they're both in forward motion, but then it turns retrograde and the tension lessens. But when it's out here, it's like you're getting information. You got nowhere to go with it. And so it's easy to be overwhelmed by all this new information that seems to have no place to be deposited. And it can increase our anxiety and sense of losing control. But then as Mercury retrogrades, the tension decreases until it merges with the Sun, and that's November 1st. And then it starts to move behind the Sun as they're moving along. And then Mercury then feels as though it's creating a drag that retards the possibility of implementing the new data until it regains its forward motion in its pursuit of the Sun on November 1st. So on the 1st, we have this is the moment when Mercury, which has been collecting all this information, deposits it. It really brings it fully into our consciousness on the 1st, although we don't necessarily at that moment know what to do with it. We get the information. The implementation of the information really will be after November 10th. Also on the 1st, Mercury is sextile Pluto. So we have Mercury here. Again, all these are 9 degrees. So Mercury here is in a 60-degree angle to Pluto. Here, I'll put it on the chart here. Again, we've got Mercury here, 60-degree angle to Pluto. This is just an amazing chart. and Mercury's retrograde. So this is the second time for this alignment as well. These energetics love the mysterious. They want to know what cannot be known. Our minds are active in penetrating below the surface in search of core knowledge, or real knowledge that's in searching for the truth. This is great energy for studying things like psychology, astrology, occult subjects, healing techniques that are really aimed at regeneration. So folks may be certain of their truths under this energy, truths, and engage in trying to convince others how certain they are of their personal truth. So this pairing might be better to focus on your own investigation and save persuading others for another day. Also on the 1st, we have the moon in Libra, and it activates the Uranus Pluto square 5 hours before its exactitude, because here we can see it on the diagram. Here's the moon in Libra. At this point, the moon's at 12 degrees of Libra. But 5 hours before this chart is exact for the square, it was at 9 degrees of Libra, which meant that it was forming a T-square by challenging Pluto and opposing Uranus, and then later on it also gets challenged by Jupiter, which starts with us having the compulsion to act in ways that are not good for us in the long run, with people being emotionally excitable and impulsive, and later when it's connected with Jupiter, it switches to more benevolent and generous feelings to those in our immediate environment. So really, it's funny because this makes me think of just a few days ago, we had the anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake, which I was in San Francisco. And I remember the earthquake, and I remember that after the earthquake, that first night after the earthquake, people were out, they were partying, they were celebrating, everybody was generous, everyone was sharing what they had to share with other people, because we had all gone through something that was just unbelievable and outside of our concept of what was even possible. And we lived, we survived, we were okay. And this is the kind of memories that this type of square brings up, because basically, it might not shift us on a physical level like an earthquake, but this is a shifting on a spiritual, cosmic level, but it may be something we can plainly point to in the physical world. But this will be the point where things are different afterwards. Okay, November 2nd is 8 key, or wisdom, balance through introspection, meditation, and forgiveness. And we have the second Mercury trine Chiron, which may have people being conscious of and talking about their wounds so they can continue their healing process. The moon harmonizes with Venus and finds support from Neptune, which moves us the energy moves from wanting to be with friends and the people we love to later being in our innermost subconscious fantasies and daydreams, which are confusing reality and really not great for accomplishing any kind of work. And then November 3rd, the Mayan Tzolkin calendar is 9 Kaban, or Earth. This is patience experienced through gratitude for Mother Earth. And then this is the Scorpio new moon solar eclipse. So the moon is also merged with Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn, and harmonizing with Pluto and Mars, and finding support from Jupiter. Eclipses are particularly powerful from where they can be viewed. This one's really going to be in exactitude over the Atlantic Ocean and Africa. But there's something really primordial about eclipses that even with modern knowledge of the event, it still kind of stirs our deep animal uncertainty from within, particularly solar eclipses. And then in Scorpio, our emotions and passions are intensified, along with Mercury is transiting these 3 points during this retrograde cycle. So there's a strong possibility of hidden information being revealed, particularly that this hidden information will be revealed on November 22nd, which interestingly enough will be the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination, and it will also be on a Friday. So November 22nd. 1963 was a Friday. November 22nd of 2013 is also a Friday. 50 years of JFK's assassination on that day. And this is really a time when, I think that there's going to be some new information that comes out that's very, very important for us all. And then new moons bring the opportunity to set an intention for manifestation on the following full moon. What you want to do is you look at the house of your astrology chart that contains 11 Scorpio to consider the area of your life that's being activated by this new moon. For me, this is the 5th house of children and creativity. So I might expect this cycle to provide new information about my creative process and perhaps my relationships with children. This new moon has great energy for a fresh start, particularly related to spiritual commitment and transformations as we become more and more aware of our authentic inner self. The planetary angles of this lunation are for the most part real positive, with energy for integrating our thoughts and moods, also experiencing deep emotions on a very profound level, a desire to work independently for others, and really kind of wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings, and then and experiencing feelings of inner and outer equanimity. And it's really interesting to me that this eclipse is at the same degree of Scorpio as the first Mercury-Saturn conjunction that happened on October 8th. So, when I see things like that on the same degree, I usually like to look at the Sabian symbol. And the Sabian symbol for 11 degrees of Scorpio is titled A Drowning Man Being Rescued. And the focus of this is really not about the drowning man. Of course, he gets to live a life another day and usually awakens to maybe changing things in his life, but it's really about the person who saves the drowning man, which is the essence of love with a profound sense of interrelatedness with his fellow man. So the new beginnings are associated with transformation of events through our values, motives, and ethics. This new moon solar eclipse empowers us with new opportunities, environments, circumstances, and situations in the days following this shift into a new paradigm. Also, we're going to have the sun in a sextile to Mars. So from our perspective here on Earth, the sun is at a 60-degree angle to Mars. This is great for taking positive actions and accomplishing all kinds of work. This is a high-energy transit which favors physical activities and overall health. It's a great day for group projects that promote working, and as it promotes working with others. People will feel in a self-assertive mood, and aren't really inclined to be to back down. So it might be wise to just really seek common ground in dealing with any differing opinions. And then on the 4th, we have 10 Etsnob, which is or Flint in the Tzolkin. This is manifestation through being introspective, and we have the Sagittarius moon being challenged by Neptune. So we've got daydreams and fantasies feeling more important than reality. And then November 5th is 11 Kawak or Storm. This is about resolution through recognizing the gifts of adversity. And on this point, we have Venus is moving into Capricorn. So Venus gets way out on the orb and crosses over into Capricorn here, which brings kind of caution and carefulness to love relationships and social interactions, because Capricorn is practical in love. It also seeks security in partnering, which includes material comforts. And with the moon in Sagittarius on that day, It's finding support from Uranus. It's being challenged by Mars. The day moves from a desire for excitement, emotional excitement, or to engage in activities outside of our daily routine, to later having the potential for people to be irritable and have needless disputes when interacting with Mars. And then the sixth is 12 Ahau, or Sun. And it's interesting because the Ahau, 12 Ahau, is about understanding through honoring the wisdom and ancestry of the wisdom and memory of our ancestors. And you can tell Mercury's retrograde. I'm doing my best. Anyway, it's a Sun day, and on this day, meaning it's Ahau day, the Sun, but the Sun at that point is conjunct Saturn. So from our perspective here on Earth, they are at the same degree of Scorpio, bringing more attention to our responsibilities and to the tasks where we feel an obligation to others. What we accomplished on today will have lasting significance. The Sun merges with Saturn at 14 degrees Scorpio. This illuminates boundaries and discipline in our lives. This is also about new responsibilities. It usually brings low energy, so concentrate on the tasks that need to be accomplished and let wait for another day what can wait for another day. We also have the Capricorn moon merging with Venus and harmonizing with Neptune and Mercury, which moves from, feeling cheerful, warm, gregarious, and wanting to go out and socialize with a greater sensitivity to other people's emotions, possible psychic impressions for those who are open, to finally experiencing an increase in communications of all kinds. And then we have November 7th, 13 Amish, or crocodile, movement to the next stage through nurturing new beginnings. It will be my Tzolkin return. So hope it's a good one. Anyway, that's the day that Jupiter turns retrograde in Cancer. So again, retrogrades are times of review. Jupiter's about opportunities. So this becomes a time when people review missed opportunities, particularly related to the home and the family in Cancer. For some, this might be a time of thinking of a lost love with whom you were considering having a family or making a home with. But as fate would have it, that dream did not become a reality. Jupiter retrograde also has us reviewing expansion that we've encountered since Jupiter moved into Cancer on June 25th of this year. And during times of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, another water sign, this also signals a time of deeper awareness, okay, because Jupiter is going to expand the Mercury retrograde awareness in these two water signs working with each other. We also have Venus in harmony with Neptune in the third water sign, being Pisces. So we've got Neptune here in harmony with Venus. So from our perspective here on the Earth, this is forming a 60-degree sextile angle. It inspires creative, romantic imagination. It's very nice energy between the planet of romantic love and her higher octave planet, the planet of unconditional love. This might be a time when we experience universal love through our personal relationships. This is also very creative and imaginative energy that seeks and appreciates beauty. And exposure to art and music or poetry would help renew our consciousness during this pleasant, dreamy fog of this transit. We've got the moon is in Capricorn, so it's starting to try to ground it, and just by being in an earth sign, because everything else is floating around in water. Well, not Venus so much. Anyway, anyway, the moon in Capricorn is being challenged by Uranus, merging with Pluto, finding support from Mars. in harmony with Saturn and the Sun. The day begins with people likely to act hasty and jump to conclusions. And then we have more intense moods rising to the surface from deep in our psyches to later bring energy to assert ourselves in a positive manner by standing our ground if necessary and wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings. And then finally just feeling a balance between our inner and outer worlds. So this is an interesting time period. May you live in interesting times. So anyway, no matter what the energies that are affecting you during this one offering Trisena, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, being conscious of the moment through introspection, meditation, just being really conscious with somebody you love and when you're in their aura, in their presence. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that are beckoning to distract us. We're all here just trying to give her the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. But take some time out to observe the play as well as acting your part, remembering you're a spiritual being who's just having a human experience. So, sit back, watch the show as well as act your part. Anyway, thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on November 8th, 2013 for one Eek or Wind. Also, we'll be talking about Mercury turning direct, followed by Neptune turning direct, and the Taurus full moon. As always, you can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, the Mayan Magics website, and I encourage you to share these videos or the text as widely as you choose. I will be discussing the astrology of November 2013 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Orion Talk Radio on Friday, November 1st. Also look for around November 1st for the neutrino forecast, the new neutrino forecast, where I'll just do the human design in one place. As always, I invite you to contact me here at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you got any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 different levels of compensation. These readings are really designed to provide information to help you navigate these difficult times. At the basic level, we'll be looking at your human design chart to help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority in making life decisions based on your unique design. I include the next 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressive astrology charts, along with the human design reading at the middle level. At the top level, the human design and astrology transit reading will be recorded and then sent to you as an MP3 that can be downloaded onto your computer. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You need to be either able to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. So if you don't want a reading, but you really enjoy what we're putting out here, please consider making a donation. The best way to make a donation is get a reading. You get something from the experience, and you help us keep New World Birth going. Anyway, as always, I am blessed that you have taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey in this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and great gratitude for you being here and continuing to support us here at New World Birth. Thanks for everything. Peace.